Hey, welcome to the shop. If you've wanted to order your own laser cut parts, but the whole process with CAD and everything seems intimidating, this is the video for you. I'm going to break it down step by step. We'll walk through that whole process with 2D CAD. In this video, this will be the first in a two-part series. In the next one, we'll get into some three-dimensional CAD, building off what we learned here. So let me show you what we're making. This is my Siegmund fixture table, and it has all these holes that you can mount things to. Now this is a small bench vise, and I had this mounted on a rolling workbench, and every time I'd pull on it in a video, the thing would be rocking around a little. Most of the time it worked okay, but I'd like to have it in a more stable spot without using up real estate here on my table. So here's the concept. I need a flat plate that'll mount right here to the edge of the table with 4 holes for fixturing locations. And then coming off of that, welded on at a 90-degree angle, I want a plate that is a perfect fit to the bottom of the vise right here. And so those two will be the main interfacing parts. Then I want a gusset that goes in between. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make a rough sketch of each piece that I'm going to need, and I can define my dimensions here so that when I get into CAD, I already know what size things are going to be and basically what I'm working with. I found the schematic for the vise, which gave me the dimensions I needed, and then I make sure to fill in a size and position for all of the holes and every other feature that I have. So we're going to use a CAD software called Onshape, and it's completely browser-based, so you don't have to download anything. It's a really powerful 3D CAD tool, but we're only going to be using the 2D sketcher in it today, and then we'll build off of what we do today in the next video in the series, where we'll do some 3D modeling and some more complex things. To use the free version of Onshape, you have to agree to a couple of things. The first is that it's only for personal projects, not for commercial type work. And second, that all of the designs you have in there have to be shared publicly on their database. I don't think very many people are looking to find them, but that is their rule. So if you don't like those restrictions, there are some other options you can use that are completely free with no restrictions. I'll put a list of a few of those in the description. So you can check those out if you don't want any of those restrictions, but I'm just going to tell you they're a little bit more cumbersome to use. Not terrible, but just a little more cumbersome, so be aware of that. I'll put a link in the description to Onshape's free plan, so you'll be able to head over there and log in. If you are using a different CAD software, the same principles we're going to talk about will still apply, whether it's Fusion 360 or one of the others I've linked, but once you log in, you can click on Create and New Document, and then in here you can give it a name. So everything is contained within a document for a project here in Onshape. Now once you're in the interface, you'll see in your document you have 3 planes, and this is what 3D geometry will be built off of, is one of these 3 planes. We'll get into that a little bit more in the next tutorial. But since we're going to be using a sketch, we need to choose one. So up in the top bar, click on Sketch. Now after that, you can come here and select a plane. I'm just going to use the front plane, and I can click on Front in the cube in the top right to line everything up with my screen. So I'm just looking at that 2D plane. Now along the top, you have a bunch of different sketching tools, and the great news is they basically do what their picture looks like. So we want to start with a rectangle for the back plate, and so I'll click on that rectangle, and I'll start there at the origin in the center and drag the rectangle up. Now I don't need the exact size because I'm going to resize it and dimension it here. So let me click in the top on the dimension tool. Now I can click on the line and select it, and this is where you put in what size it is. So I know I want a 4-inch tall by 8-inch wide rectangle. It's actually a 10-inch wide, but we're going to do 8 for now, and I'll show you how you can fix things a little bit later. Now we need 4 circles for those bolt holes, so I'm going to click on the circle here. Anytime you put in a hole, you need both a position and a size. So back to the dimension tool, I can click on the circle and then click out here and put in my size. Now it's a 16mm table, and instead of doing a conversion, I can just put in 16.5, which I just want a little margin, and then mm, and it knows to do that conversion for me to inches. So that's really nice. Then I can put in a dimension from the top and from the side, both to the center of the circle, and that will set my position. So my first hole has a size and position, so it's fully defined. Now, instead of drawing the other holes, I can click on this 4 square icon right there, and that's a rectangular pattern, and so that will let me multiply it. So I can double click here and say I want 2 circles in this direction, and the distance between them I want to be 8 inches off of my sketch. Now I'm realizing that that 8 isn't correct at the bottom, so I can just double click on it and change it to 10 just that easily. And that's why I like this sketcher better than a lot of the other free options I have in the description, because you can make changes on the fly much more easily. Anyway, I clicked on that arrow to reverse the direction, and I selected that I want 2 in the other direction, and I want them 2 inches apart. Now I just left click to select that and accept what I made, and I have all of my holes in place. So it's just that easy to make the basic shape for that back plate. I want to round the lower corners. So right there, it says sketch fillet. That also does external rounds like I want to do here. And so I can just click on that corner and set what I want that radius to be. So I'll set it here at 1/2 inch, should be pretty good. And then I'll have that bottom rounded, and then I can click on the other side to do that, and it'll be all set for me. So that's all I need to do to make a sketch that I can order a laser cut part from. So you might not have caught everything, but hopefully you got the gist of it and have enough confidence to at least get in here and play with it. And trust me, you'll get the hang of it a lot faster than you think, whether it's here in Onshape or some other CAD software, either way. Now, after this is done here, I just moved some dimensions around so you could see the overall picture of what was drawn here. I can click on the green check mark up next to Sketch 1, and it will be complete. Now, over on the left, there's this list. Just right-click on Sketch 1 right there on that column, and then export as DXF. Once you click on that, it will let you give a name to the actual file that you're going to export that you'll upload to SendCutSend, and then you'll have this file format. It's the same that you'd use in for a CNC plasma table or something like that, but that's what we're going to go ahead and upload for ordering our laser cut parts. I did a similar walkthrough step-by-step of modeling the other 2 parts, but since not everybody's ready to dive in right now, I moved those to the end of the video. So after this video is over, stick around and I'll walk step-by-step through how I modeled up both of these other parts so you can learn a few of the other tools that are available. Now let's go ahead and look at how to order these parts. Now you can go to the SendCutSend website where I'm going to order these from and click on Get Started. Once you create an account where you can upload parts, you'll see all of the parts there. I have a lot in here, but in the beginning, you just go to the Parts tab and then click right here to upload parts. There's a little square. And once you click on that, you can go ahead and select the parts from your folder. By default, they go to the downloads directory from Onshape. Now I'll highlight all 3 of these so that I can upload them all at the same time, and then I'll be able to select some materials and order them. So I'm going to order them one at a time. You can actually add all of them to the cart at the same time, but I'll start over here with the back plates. Now the first thing to look at is a dimension that it shows here, and make sure it looks like it's about the right size. This might be in inches or millimeters depending on how you have yours set up. I'm working in inches here, and if this looks way off, you might have imported a drawing that is in millimeters and you actually need it in inches, but they look good, so I'll click on Add to Cart. There are a lot of different materials. I'm going to select metals here and then go to steel, and then just up at the top, mild steel. You could select a ton of different materials, but this is going to be the best and most cost effective. So I'm going to select a 1/4 inch thick and look at the price right there and how much it drops. I mean, you drop to almost half the price when you order a couple of them, and it drops from there. So there's definitely an economy of scale here. When you factor in the free shipping, The prices, I think, are very competitive here for low volume parts. So I wouldn't save a whole lot by making these myself, honestly, by the time I bought small quantity material. But I selected that I don't need any additional operations, so I can click Next and Add to Cart. Now on the next drawing, I'm going to add the actual vise plate. I'll click Add More Drawings. I'm going to select a tapping operation. So here I can add to cart in the exact same way. I'll go into metals, I'll select my steel, the mild steel once again, and a 1/4 inch thick. Once again, you can see the quantity discounts that you get there. But I'll go ahead and click Next, and then I can select to have my threaded holes. So I'll click on tapping right there, and if you have different diameter holes, it'll show each of them there, and then you can select the size of thread that you want. So I'll select my 3/8 coarse thread, and if I click down, you can actually change it by hole, and it'll give a visual blue indication of which one will be tapped. I want all 3. So I'll click Next, and that will be all that I need to do for this part, and I can add it to the cart. Now for the final gusset, I can click on it, add it to the cart with mild steel just like I did before, and I am all set. The checkout process is as easy as any e-commerce site. You just need a credit card to buy it, and I have a link in the description where you can get a 15% off discount code. It's not an affiliate link, but it is something awesome they do for the friends of the channel. All right, we have parts. So these were ordered on Friday. They shipped out Saturday, and they're here on Wednesday. Free shipping. And it doesn't always happen that fast, but I've never been disappointed in the fulfillment speed, and it's always vacuum packed with quality here. So in typical SendCutSend style, you also have your treat. All right, let's get this stuff out of here. Take a look at what we got. It's always awesome to go from just a rough and dirty napkin sketch like this to having the actual hardware here. Now you can imagine how much time it would take to cut all these out to size, drill the holes. Here these holes are even threaded, and everything hopefully will fit really well. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and lay this out right here so I know where all my pieces fit. Now the reality is, if I were developing this as a product, I would use tab and slot type features. So I'd put a couple of slots in here and tabs on the end of each of these pieces, so it would all self-fixture and just hold itself together. But I wanted to show in this video that you can do things in a very simple way and still come out with the products that you want. All right, well I have lines right here to indicate the edges of my vise plate on the back plate, so I can line that up there. And then I also have some lines right here to be able to keep these gussets straight right there. And so this will sit on top and everything will piece together kind of like that. Now just for the sake of craftsmanship, I'll go ahead and put a chamfer on the edges around here. In addition to the parts that we designed together, I had these little spacers cut out to increase the thickness from a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch where the bolts go through. That just works better with the particular bolts that I have, but I'm going to mount everything down to the table while I weld that back plate to help avoid distortion. I could use any process, including short circuit MIG here on this 1/4 inch plate, but since I have some dual shield flux core, I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the machine. Well, let's go ahead and test fit this. I really like how it turned out, and the accuracy of the hole position is key here when I'm interfacing with something like this fixture table so everything slides in smoothly. And you know, if you don't have a milling machine or use CNC cut plates like this, it's very difficult to get your holes positioned accurately enough to fit together as well as this does. So I'm really happy with how this turned out, but more importantly, hopefully you learned some tools and gained some confidence that you can order your own parts to make whatever it is that you want to make. Thanks a ton for watching. Check out the description for some useful links, and we'll see you next time. Now, if you're interested in seeing how I drew up the other two parts, here I'll walk through that step by step. Next, let's draw the vise mount plate. So I'll click on the plus in the bottom left of the screen and click on Create Part Studio. And that's going to bring us into a brand new part here, just like we started with before. So we're going to repeat this 3 times for the 3 different parts. Now I'll click on Sketch, select my front plane, and click on Front on the cube in the top right. That way I'm looking straight at it and I can start to draw my shapes. Now I'm going to base things around the origin here because I have a circular bolt pattern. So I'm going to draw 2 different circles. One will be the outline of the bottom and one will be a bolt circle. So once I've drawn both of those, I can go ahead and click on the dimension tool and dimension them so they are to size. So this will be the bolt circle right here. And that will be the outline. So I know the outline I want to be right at 6 inches. And then the bolt circle, based on the drawing, I have a dimension for that from the schematic for the vise. So now I have that in place, but I don't want to cut out a donut. So I don't want that bolt circle to actually be a geometry. So I can right click on it and then I can select construction. So you can toggle back and forth between whether you're just referencing it or whether you actually want it to be something that gets cut out, because whatever is a solid line is going to get cut out. So now with that in place, I can draw a rectangle that lines up there with the center. Now at the top right, there are a number of constraints, and those are just ways that shapes relate to each other. So I'll click on coincidence and click on the bottom corner of the rectangle and that circle. That means that they'll sit on top of one another. Now that those are defined, I have my basic shape for my vise plate and it's really coming together. The problem with this shape is it has an overlap between the circle and the rectangle. So I'm going to click on a tool called Trim, these scissors. And this is really useful when you're drawing with different shapes and they overlap and you need to trim some out. So I can just click and it will trim the sections where they intersect another shape. So now it's open up and it's ready to go. I just need to dimension the height of the overall plate. So once again, I'll just click on the dimension tool, click on that top line and the lower circle because I know that dimension right there and that's how I want to define this. So once I put that in, it should be in good shape. Now I need to put in some bolt holes. So I'll click on the circle here and I want it to sit on that circle and also straight above the origin. So if I run into the origin right there and highlight it, now it'll try to align it straight if I get it close. So once I get it there at that intersection, I can go ahead and create my circle. And then I just need to give it a size because it'll automatically snap to the position. Now I want this to be a threaded hole, and so I need to define it as the right size for SendCutSend to be able to thread it. So if I go to the SendCutSend website, then I can click on Resources, Guidelines, and then go down here to tapping. See, there's all kinds of different services that they offer, and they'll tell you some design requirements for each one. But here under tapping, there's a bunch of information, and then there is a table right here that tells me the diameter I need the hole to be for a certain thread size. And so I can find that diameter there, then go back into my CAD program and input that dimension. So right here, enter it, and it's ready to go. Now I need 3 of these bolt holes here, and so just like we did a rectangular pattern, you can do a circular pattern. So there's that 4 square thing that looks like a grid. There's an arrow next to it. Whenever there's an arrow next to something, it means there's more tools. Then I can click on circular pattern, and right here, it will just default to the arrangement that I want. So I was just lucky that it defaults to 3 and that's what I need, but you could change the number of instances just like we did before. Next, I'm going to put a circle around each one of these to make the little tab, and then I'll go ahead and dimension that based off of the schematic for the vise. So this will give me my outline for the tab, and it looks kind of funny right now, and don't worry if you're not following step by step. I'm just hoping to give you a flavor of what to expect here. But now that those are defined, I can go back to the trim tool, because again, we have some overlapping shapes right there, and so we need to trim those extra lines. So I'll click on the scissors right there, and then go ahead and trim both sections. Now with that done, I can click here on the sketch fillet, and then go into the corner and use that to smooth everything out, and that 1/2 inch radius looks about right. Now the parts that are blue are technically not fully constrained or defined compared to those that are black on the sketch. That's why some lines are blue and some are black. We're not going to get into that today. Long term, that's something you'd want to learn and do, but I just wanted to give a flavor for how you would define things, and this is certainly good enough to go ahead and order some parts. So I can click on that check mark right there, and then I can go ahead and right click once again on sketch there and export as DXF, then name this whatever I want it to. And that's all I need to do. That's the most complicated part that we're going to work on here. So hopefully you saw some different tricks you could use. And if you wanted to open this up yourself and follow along and do it as I do, that might be a good way to learn also. Or you can go ahead and just do yours. So now I'm going to go in and create another part studio here for the gusset. And this will be an easy, quick one now. So I'll click on Sketch, select my plane, and then click on the cube to align the plane. Now in here, I'm just going to use lines to define the shape for my gusset. And so I'll start with a horizontal line along the top, then click there, and then it'll allow me to continue with another line. So I'll make a vertical line, one kind of at an angle. I just need the rough shape, horizontal line, and then one back up. So that's the basic shape for the gusset. Next, I can go into my dimension tool and give it a size. So I'll click there, and I'll make it 6 inches long. And then right here, I'll do it 3 3/4 because I want it 1/4 inch short of that 4-inch plate. And so that defines the outside. Now I'm going to just put some arbitrary dimensions here. I'll just call them 1 inch for each of these different legs. And then I can go over to that sketch fillet command to make these external rounds. So when I click on that, I can just put that in there. I want it to be a little bit bigger, so I'll change that dimension to a 1 inch radius. Click on both corners, and that's in place. Once again, I can just go ahead and right click and export that sketch as a DXF.